Hello everyone, welcome to Week 1 lecture, Introduction and Ethics of Educational Research. Here is the outline for this lecture. We will first discuss why educational research matters. Then we will talk about what counts as educational research, different ways to classify educational research, philosophical commitments, major elements of a research paper, and ethics in research. Let's begin with the first major topic, why research, especially educational research, matters. Research is the reason we live in the world we live in today, formally or informally. Consider the medicine. It needs rigorous research to show the effectiveness and evaluation of the potential side effects to patients. In social sciences, professionals must be able to read the research literature in the field and apply it in their professional lives. This statement indicates the significance of research in multiple areas, including educational research, which is part of the broader field of social science research. As educators, we make decisions in our professional settings. For instance, which reading intervention should we adopt to help students' learning? How do we support multilingual learners? What strategies make online learning more effective? Educational research helps us obtain solid evidence to support our practices instead of simply making decisions based on our opinions. Educational research matters because educational choices affect all related stakeholders in educational settings. While we can conduct educational research informally, we focus on formal educational research from now on. Such research is done systematically, intentionally, deliberately, with a set of recognized methods. Now that we have discussed why educational research matters, we can move to a basic but important question. What counts as educational research? In other words, how do we define educational research? Adapted from the textbook, educational research can be defined as a systematic approach to studying educational-related issues to generate new knowledge situated within existing scholarship. A systematic approach indicates that educational research follows a formal and organized process, guided by established methodological principles, while still allowing researchers to use novel or adapted approaches when they are carefully justified and transparently documented. In the area of educational research, we want to make sure that we are addressing issues in educational settings. Such research should aim to result in new knowledge that is built upon existing body of knowledge, in other words, scholarship. For example, a researcher may study whether small group discussion improves students' reading comprehension. The study would build on exist scholarship about reading instruction and cooperative learning while addressing a specific research gap, such as how this strategy works for elementary students or English language learners. The research findings may then contribute new knowledge to the field and inform classroom practice. Research can be classified in different ways depending on the purpose of the classification. Next, we will briefly review several common ways to classify educational research. Both basic and applied research involve systematic collection and analysis of data to generate new knowledge. The difference is whether the main goal is to address a practical problem. In education, many studies are applied because researchers often want to improve instruction, assessment practices, student support, or school systems. However, basic research is also valuable because it helps build theories in relevant areas, even though the immediate goal is not for practical use. Conventional academic research usually aims to contribute to the broader scholarly knowledge base. Therefore, researchers often begin by identifying research deficiencies or gaps in existing literature, such as unanswered questions, inconsistent findings, limited evidence, or methodological weaknesses. Action research, in contrast, usually begins with a local problem of practice. Its main purpose is not necessarily to fill a gap in the broader literature, but to improve teaching, learning programs, or professional practice through an iterative process of inquiry, action, reflection, and refinement. However, these two approaches are not completely separate. Both can use systematic inquiry, collect and analyze evidence, and contribute to improved understanding. Action research may also contribute to the broader research knowledge base when the findings are carefully documented, connected to prior literature, and shared with other educators or researchers. Empirical research uses collected data to answer research questions. Typical examples include collecting data using surveys, interviews, observations, and test scores. Non-empirical research uses existing literature, theories, or concepts rather than collecting new data. Typical examples include systematic reviews and theoretical papers. In the course, we will focus on empirical research, where researchers need to collect data themselves. Quantitative research measures variables and patterns with numerical data. Qualitative research explores meanings and experiences in depth using open-ended data. Mixed methods research integrates both types of data to provide a more complete understanding of a research topic. Different types of research instruments could be used for different research approaches. Quantitative research often uses structured instruments such as Likert scale surveys or assessments with multiple choice questions. Qualitative research often uses interviews, observations, or documents. Mixed methods research, of course, uses both types of instruments in one study. Let's reflect on the usage of three research approaches by answering this example research question. Does structured peer feedback improve students' writing quality? Quantitatively, we could compare students' writing scores before and after they receive peer feedback. Qualitatively, we could interview students about how they use peer feedback to improve their writing. In a mixed method study, we could use interview results to explain the score changes we observed using numerical data. Our lectures are organized by different research approaches. You will have a clear understanding of these research approaches during the course. Before conducting a study, researchers bring assumptions about reality, knowledge, and values. These assumptions shape the entire research process. The three commitments we will briefly introduce are ontology, epistemology, and axiology. These commitments help researchers think about what reality is in a study, what counts as knowledge, and what values matter. Researchers make assumptions about the nature of reality and what can be studied in educational settings. For example, if we examine whether an instructional intervention improves student achievement, we are treating achievement as a meaningful educational reality that can be represented through measurable outcomes such as test scores, course grades, or performance tasks. Researchers make assumptions about what counts as knowledge and what types of evidence can help us understand the research issue. For example, in an educational research study, knowledge about student learning may come from assessment scores, surveys, interviews, observations, or the combination of different data sources. Researchers' values influence topic selection, ethical decisions, relationships with participants, and interpretation of results. For example, a researcher who values benefits of all subgroups may choose to study whether an intervention benefits students from different backgrounds fairly, and may interpret findings with attention to all groups. We will briefly review the major elements in our research paper, including introduction, research purposes, and questions, research methods, results, and discussions. The first major element is the introduction. This is where researchers state the research problem, review relevant literature, and describe the theoretical framework. We will discuss more of these elements in Module 2. Researchers normally include the purpose of a study and research questions after the research introduction and before research methods. We will discuss more of these elements in Module 2 as well. Next, research methods describe how researchers conduct a study. In the research methods section, researchers provide information relevant to research design, sample data collection, and data analysis plan. This section helps readers understand what was done and whether the methods were appropriate for answering the research questions. After describing the research methods, researchers report the results. In the results section, researchers report research findings to answer research questions proposed at the beginning. This section should be organized clearly, as all the major findings are reported here. Discussion includes the following elements. It starts with a recap, a summary of research findings. Then, researchers move to an in-depth discussion of research findings connected with prior literature. At the end, researchers discuss the practical implications of the research findings and limitations and future research directions. Although research papers may not all include exactly the same sections or use the same headings, the main content is similar. Ethics in research. Now we will move from research structures to ethics in research. As stated in the textbook, as an ethical researcher, it is your responsibility to exhibit care and transparency with all aspects of the research process, from literature review, methodology, selection of participants, internal review, data collection, analysis of results, and recommendations. Let's review the key considerations together. The guiding principles of the Belmont Report include respect for persons, beneficence, and justice. Respect for persons, participants should be treated as autonomous individuals who can make informed decisions about participation. Researchers must provide clear information, obtain voluntary consent, and provide extra protection for individuals with a limited ability to make decisions themselves. Beneficence. Researchers have an obligation to protect participants from harm and promote their well-being. Studies should minimize possible risks, maximize potential benefits, and ensure that incentives do not pressure participants to ignore potential harms. Justice. The benefits and burdens of research should be distributed fairly to all human subjects in the study. Most institutions have an institutional review board website that provides guidance and resources for researchers. If you are interested in learning more about the IRB process, please review the IRB information available at UT Arlington. While IRB review helps ensure that research meets formal ethical requirements, ethical research is not only about compliance. Researchers also need to bring strong professional values into the research process. Values are the principles and beliefs that guide researchers make decisions. Transparency means conducting and reporting research in an open and honest way, including clear communication about procedures, data analysis, and findings. Objectivity means making a serious effort to reduce bias and interpret evidence fairly, while recognizing that complete neutrality may not be fully possible in human research. Academic misconduct is not uncommon in practice. Publicly reported cases can often be found by searching relevant keywords. Therefore, it is very important for researchers and students to develop self-awareness of potential misconduct and understand how to avoid it. In academic courses, students are expected to follow the same guidelines we described so far. Potential misconduct may be reported by instructors to the appropriate institutional office. In general, researchers should be truthful, transparent, and responsible in all stages of the research process. Research integrity requires giving proper credit to original sources, reporting findings honestly, avoiding plagiarism, fabrication, falsification, misleading or selective reporting, and acknowledging limitations or unexpected results. AI complication. I assume almost all of you have experience in using AI. Let's briefly discuss how this may influence the research process. In general, the usage of AI in educational research is controversial because it can support research productivity and make some tedious process more efficient, but it can also raise concerns about ethical issues. In general, AI may help researchers brainstorm ideas, locate sources, summarize information, improve writing, and support research procedures. However, on top of all these benefits, we should be clear that we are responsible for ethical usage of AI. Ethical usage of AI depends on the final product and the procedures followed to create the final product. While there are no easy answers to this question, we can proceed to make some efforts for ethical or responsible AI use. AI tools may be used to support research and writing when permitted by course instructors and journal submission guidelines. However, in some courses, instructors may completely prohibit the use of AI tools. Students should follow the rules established for each course. In this course, I have provided guidance on AI use in the syllabus. Regardless of the specific guidance available, some general principles apply in most situations. Researchers should carefully check AI-generated content for accuracy, cite or acknowledge AI use when required, and protect private or sensitive data, and ensuring that researchers are making the final decisions rather than relying on AI to do so. In research settings, one common example is using AI to help identify research references. However, AI may sometimes fabricate references or generate sources that do not actually exist. Therefore, it is researchers' responsibility to look up any references generated by AI, review them carefully, and determine whether they are accurate and relevant to the research purpose questions. Let's pause the video for a few seconds and think about this question. Are we using AI to support our intellectual work, or are we using AI to replace it? This may be a fundamental question when determining whether AI is being used responsibly in practice. Based on my recent interviews I conducted with faculty members in higher education, AI use has become a major concern in academic settings. The short answer to this question is we should only use AI to support our work, not use AI to replace it. To conclude, I wanted to share with you the UTA AI information website. It will provide you additional information and support on how to use AI ethically. I hope you enjoy the lecture for Module 1. In this lecture, I aim to expand on the textbook content by providing additional explanations and examples. I will see you in Module 2, where we will dive into literature reviews and research questions. Please reach out if you have any questions.